What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Not So Stupid podcast. Today, we're going to be breaking down the 3 mantras I use with my clients to help them stay successful during their fat loss phases. And these 3 mantras are usually in those situations that you would likely experience in the past that cause you to binge attack, cause you to overeat, cause you to overindulge, or just put you in an unfavorable situation to help keep you on track with your goals. So instead of continuously falling victim to those circumstances, we create these little mantras that you can repeat to yourself in these situations to help shift your decision making to be more beneficial and more positive to you, to help you reach your goals, to help you reach your fat loss goals, and to help you balance enjoyment and pleasure with moderation and satisfaction. So balancing the two is going to be the ultimate indicator of success in the short term and the long term, because when you can go into a situation where you're at a party and there's a dessert table and you're able to have what you want without overindulging, you're going to be able to win not just at that party but in every party going forward, because you understand how to approach it. Likewise, if you are put into a situation where someone gifts you so many desserts and sweets, you can avoid having negative emotions or guilt or fear around overdoing it in that situation, causing you to change your body drastically. You can enjoy it and still maintain how you look and still work towards your goals. And that starts with understanding, again, these 3 mantras that we're going to be breaking down. So before getting into what these 3 mantras are, for those of you that aren't familiar with what a mantra is something that it's a phrase or word or a couple words that you repeat over and over again to aid in concentration, to aid with mindfulness and with the activity in hand. Mantras are very commonly used in Hindu and Buddhist culture to help them meditate or be, again, mindful and present for any situation. But you can use this to your advantage to help shift your mindset toward this certain idea or toward a certain perspective that you're looking to embody and become. So the first mantra that we're going to be working toward is most pertinent and most applicable during a situation where any kind of food is present to you that you usually overindulge with. And it's where you ask yourself the question, hell yes or no? Is this food a hell yes or a no? And that phrasing is very intentional. We didn't say hell yes or a hell no. It's a hell yes or a no. Because if you are looking at a food that's in your vicinity, it's in your environment, and you're thinking about having it, and normally you would have it just because it's there, that's not a hell yes situation where you would want to consume that or indulge in that. It has to be something that you truly, really want. Your soul is craving this. You've been thinking about this for days, if not weeks, and the situation to actually have it hasn't come up. You have to really, really want this food. You have to see this food, and if someone were to ask you, do you want this? You got to say in your mind, hell yes, I want this. And anything other than a hell yes would be a no, because then that's just eating for the sake of eating. It's mindless eating. You're just eating because the food is there. A common situation where this would come up in is if you work at the office and someone brought donuts, or if you remember working at an office, if you're still not working in offices, and you remember people bringing donuts and just having treats around to feed you or give to your coworkers. In some instances, you can feel 2 ways about this. You can look at this and just have a donut because everyone else is having a donut, and you're like, why not? Might as well have it. But that would again fall into the mindless eating trap. Not to say that you should never have a donut, but there's no reason to have it just because it's there. And whenever I've worked with anyone that ends up having those things, that end up falling victim for those foods because they're just present and they feel pressured into having it, they always regret it later on. They always feel guilty for having those foods later on. Whereas the different mindset and the mindset you want to embody when you choose to have these foods is that, man, I've been wanting a donut for so long, but I just haven't had the chance to get a donut. There hasn't been a donut presented to me. Oh my God, it goes perfect with this coffee that I bought, and I always love having this donut with this coffee, and I really, really want it, and there's no possible alternative that can replace this donut. That's a good situation to have that donut. You have to actually really want that food to say yes to it. And that's what we mean by hell yes. That's what it has to be, an absolute uh there's no question that this is something you want in this situation, in this context, and nothing else can replace it. If it's not a hell yes, if it's just a kind of yes, if it's a this would be cool, or if it's a oh, it's right there, might as well have it kind of thing, you don't want that. That's what makes it a no. So again, the mantra is this a hell yes or a no? This is something you can repeat to yourself in any situation where you would normally mindlessly eat. You're at a party and there's a bunch of desserts around. You really only want one dessert, but you feel like, or at least, or you feel like, or in other situations with your past self, you would just load up on all the desserts that are on the dessert table because they're there. That's a perfect situation to ask yourself hell yes or no repeatedly for each individual item. So if you are at a dessert table and there's carrot cake, there's apple pie, there's donuts, again, there is ice cream, and you normally have one of everything just because they're giving you that variety. So why not have that variety? In the end of the day, those are mindless calories consumed. And unnecessary calories consumed that don't actually serve you in any way because you don't actually want them. You're just consuming it because it's there once again. So when you were presented all those foods, the apple pie, the carrot cake, the ice cream, the donuts, and you go through each individual one and you ask yourself, is this a hell yes or a no? And you go through it one by one and you realize that I don't really want carrot cake that bad. I don't even really like carrot cake like that. So I don't even know why I would have put it in my plate in the first place. Apple pie, it's like, I had apple pie 2 weeks ago. I don't really have the craving for it right now. There's no reason to put it on my plate. Donuts, my friend brought donuts to the office 2 days ago. Why would I have this donut right now? Oh, ice cream. Oh, this is my favorite flavor. It reminds me a lot of when I was a kid. I always loved this stuff. This is, homemade. It's very good quality ice cream brand that they got. I gotta have this right now. I can't pass this up. It's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. All right, cool. You were able to, instead of have 4 different desserts, narrow it down to one dessert that you actually really want. And you can fully enjoy it that much more because it's something you want so much more. And because it's not mixed in with all these other desserts that you kind of wanted, that kind of devalue the flavor of this ice cream or devalue the enjoyment of this ice cream. So this is the first mantra of the 3 that we covered. So that is it a hell yes or a no? And again, can apply to any situation, whether that is a sweet, whether it's a savory food, but the idea is if it's something that you have around, even seconds at a dinner party. If you're thinking about having seconds, are you just having seconds because there's, extra food? Are you having seconds because you actually want seconds? Things to ask yourself before actually following through with your seconds is this a hell yes or a no? So that is the first one. Very powerful when you understand it and when you can actually differentiate those feelings within yourself. And once you're able to do that, that is something you can take with you for the rest of your life. So always love that one. The next one is also one I really love. And again, following the idea of mindful eating versus mindless eating. And that is remembering and repeating, enough is as good as a feast. Enough is as good as a feast. And this one was something I got from Alan Watts, a famous Eastern philosopher, and he wasn't even talking about food, but it's obviously a food reference. And whenever I think of this one, I imagine going to a buffet, right? And sometimes, the way I was raised at least, when we go to a buffet, it's like, you got to get your money's worth. You got to eat the whole thing. You got to go multiple times, It doesn't matter if you're not hungry, we might as well have it because it's there idea, right? And I'm sure I wasn't the only one raised that way, to just take advantage when it's there. But really, it's such a poor mindset to have. And this is something that you experience in other parts of your life as well, where we think more is better. Having as much as we can is going to solve all of our problems. It's going to make us better people. It's going to help us enjoy things more. But really, there's a lost art to contentment, to having a reasonable amount and enjoying that much. If I were to go to a buffet now, different mindset here. If I were to go to a buffet now, I would eat until I'm comfortably full. I would choose a variety of foods that I want to have a good portion of each one of them, and be okay with that. Whether that's 1 plate, 2 plates, 4 plates, obviously not that excessively. But if I just have 1 plate of food and I was able to have a good amount, a good portion of each individual thing that I want to try, and I feel good, I'm not really full, I'm not stuffed, I still can enjoy myself just as much, if not more, as someone that has 3 times the servings of all the foods that I had. That's the way I think about it when I reference this quote. Enough is as good as a feast. You don't need more to enjoy the same thing. You don't need 2 pints of ice cream to enjoy the ice cream. You can have 1 cup of ice cream. You could have a scoop of ice cream and enjoy it just the same as 2 pints of ice cream. And it's important to recognize that, because again, when we are going through life mindlessly, and that's the main idea here with both of these quotes, is being more mindful with your decision making. When you go through life mindlessly, you end up consuming more, whether that's food, whether that is video content, whether that is spending habits, other kinds of consumption. You end up consuming more than you need or you want, just because you can, and just because you have been ingrained with this idea of having more is better, when really having enough is all you need. And being able to kind of break down this old ideology and focus more on contentment, focus more on what enough actually means to you, you're able to find a lot more peace in your life, both with your eating, and with your general lifestyle. You find more peace and enjoyment. So both of these, again, we're focusing on mindfulness, focusing on is this what I want? Do I actually need more than this? Is this enough for me to enjoy without overdoing it? And recognizing that is super powerful, and recognizing your behavior patterns in those situations by repeating these mantras to yourself becomes, again, a lifelong thing that you can take with you to manage your intake, to not go back to gaining weight again, to maintaining the body that you worked so hard for. So that's the second one. Enough is as good as a feast. You don't need more to be better. You don't need more to enjoy things more. You can enjoy and be content with enough, not excessive enough. So that is the second mantra. Now, the third mantra is isn't so much, how can I say this? It's more of an identity shift, an understanding the identity shift. And it is now isn't as before. Now isn't as before. And this is where you tell yourself, and this is where you talk to yourself, where if you're in a similar situation as you were 6 months ago, let's say, you just went through a 6-month journey where you're working on improving your habits, you're becoming healthier, you're eating healthier, you're training regularly. But during that entire time, you weren't exposed to using the same example that we've been using, a dessert table instance, a birthday party situation where all this food is presented to you. And normally in those situations, you really overdo it. You end up having 5,000 calories. You have 3 of everything just because that's how you've always been. And you get caught up in thinking that this is how I act in these situations. This is how I've always been. This is who I am. When in reality, you're under no obligation to be the same person you were even 5 minutes ago. You can shift that perspective and recognize that right now isn't before. This is an entirely different mindset that I'm in. This is an entirely different person that I am than I was 6 months ago when I was in the same exact situation. You don't have to act the same way. You don't have to respond the same way at any point in time. And recognizing that you can be different, having that growth mindset and open-mindedness to recognize that I am different. I don't have to fall into these old behavior patterns that I used to fall into. And I have the power and ability to change that from what I was raised or fell victim to something healthier that is still pleasurable and enjoyable for me at a manageable or at a moderate rate. So instead of thinking about all the times that you were in this situation and how bad you responded, or how negatively you were impacted by it, and how much you regretted it, and how much guilt you felt toward it, and thinking to yourself that I'm going to do this again, you can stop that thought pattern right there. You can shift that negative momentum and make it a positive thing. And remember that you're not who you were. You are a different person. You're under no obligation to repeat your old behaviors. You can stop that at any time. And it's starting with recognizing now isn't as before. You don't need to do as before. You aren't the same person. You don't have the same behaviors, and you don't have to have the same behaviors. And you don't need to feel negatively if you fall victim to those behaviors again. You can always adjust and iterate who you are, who you want to be, and the decisions you make every single time. Each decision is a new opportunity to either develop the person you want to be or feed into those negative cycles once again. And each decision is an opportunity for you to support that. They're all opportunities to fulfill that promise to yourself or to break that promise to yourself. And you have that power to shift each decision in your favor. You don't have to do it 100% of the time, but you doing it more frequently every single time the decision is presented to you will just yield better results for you in the short term and the long term. So those are going to be the three main mantras that I always enjoy using for myself and sharing with my clients to help them overcome these different situations. Is it a hell yes or a no? Do I really, really want this food, or am I just having it because it's there? Is this mindless eating? Enough is as good as a feast. Do I really need more of this thing to enjoy it more than having enough of it? Can I be content with less and still find pleasure and satisfaction with what I'm eating? And now isn't as before. Am I doing this because of old thought patterns and ideologies and identities I created for myself? Or can I recognize and differentiate that and see myself as somebody else, see myself as capable of doing something else and not being that person? So those are the three main mantras. I hope you guys found this incredibly helpful. If you did, please share this with a friend that might be going through the same struggle. Before I let you guys go, I do want to shout out a word to my sponsors of the podcast. First, this podcast is powered by Strong Coffee Company. On the video, I'm holding up the cup that I just drank. But Strong Coffee Company, amazing coffee brand, have it almost daily. Use code STUPIDFIT at checkout for 15% off. And top-notch nutrition supplements as well. Take those daily. These are my daily stacks of products that I like to take, and I trust them and feel so confident that if you were to try them out, you would love them as well. So both of those, use code STUPIDFIT at checkout. Follow the links in the show notes to give it a try if you haven't tried them out yet. But otherwise, thank you again, guys, for tuning out, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.